Just got done with my patron video. Last night's beatdown against the Wolves. I'm out walking the dog and I see on the Twitter feed, the Warriors and Pelicans have discussed a Kelly Oubre Lonzo Ball trade. JJ Redick's name was thrown around. Just when Oubre was quietly starting to kind of get things together, you hope that doesn't get in his head now that this team's already looking to trade me. Like if you're Oubre, you're starting to develop a little bit of a complex, right? Like everywhere he goes, the effort is on 100, yet he's always in trade rumors and he's been traded, 3 times, and he's 24, 25 years old. But let's discuss it. Let's discuss it because it makes sense. It really makes sense for both teams. Now, the Pelicans, you could argue, might be the most disappointing team in the league thus far. We're only 17 games into the season, but everybody had them penciled in as a playoff team, right? And now they sit at the bottom of the Western Conference, new coach Stan Van Gundy, and there's not a whole lot of buy-in that's going on right there. So let's look at it from the Warriors' perspective. Lonzo Ball is kind of an ideal fit next to Steph Curry. Right? He is an interchangeable guard, 6'4", 6'5". He's capable of guarding both guard spots, which we know the Warriors love that versatility. In other words, you could put him on Dame, right? Or you could put him on like a Zach LaVine, a bigger combo guard, or even a James Harden, right? He can guard both guard spots. Now, offensively, what is his greatest trait? His passing and his IQ, I would argue. And so a lot was made with Oubre early on. Again, it's starting to come together for him with the Warriors, but we know he's not a high IQ player. He's not a thinker out there. And we've seen Steph numerous times be frustrated with him not vacating the corner on the relocation. And he's struggling to pick up the Warriors offense, right? Well, Lonzo Ball will pick it up overnight. I have no doubt that he would easily integrate in it. And he's a Warrior type player, man, a high IQ guy that's a versatile defender, right? That's the Warrior archetype with guards. Now, the shooting is an issue, right? Neither one of them is setting the world ablaze from the three-point line. And you could take your pick who's going to end up, with the higher percentage this year. Both of them catch and shoot scenarios, you like it much more than off the bounce. Neither one of them, though, are going to space the floor for you or create gravity. But Lonzo, you could essentially put the ball in his hands, and Kerr loves to run Steph off ball, right? So Lonzo can run the point guard. He's a great passer. I mean, he'll help Wiseman immediately, right? He's going to help the offense be more free-flowing, even though he's not necessarily adding more shooting. And then from a defensive perspective, I know a lot of you are probably saying, well, Oubre's been amazing defensively, right? He's been a dog. He's been guarding all the lead ball handlers and stuff like that. You're right. He's been pretty good on ball, right? I think from the Warriors' perspective, it would be like, look, Andrew Wiggins is headed towards making an all-defensive team. Believe it or not, Wolves fans, right? I know you saw that last night, Wolves fans, but I don't even want to rub it in. But Wiggins is the wing stopper, right? And so Oubre was already kind of guarding smaller players. Oubre was essentially playing the two guard as a defender. And that's what Lonzo can do. He can guard ones and twos. Now threes, now you're asking him to probably do too much at his size. So I think from a Warriors perspective, they're thinking, look, we're not going to really lose much defensively. Lonzo's probably a smarter team defender than Oubre, and maybe he's not as long or as athletic, but he's a damn solid on-ball guy, especially when you're talking about guarding other guards. So then offensively, all of a sudden, the IQ goes way up, and we have another ball handler and guy that can create shots for others. Let's look at it from the Pelicans' perspective. The bottom line is Lonzo doesn't fit with Ingram. That's the problem. They've maxed Ingram out, and he's continued to play well, right? Like I think he deserves that contract. But Brandon Ingram, I think, thinks of himself as kind of a point forward. He likes to massage the ball, and he's slowly growing as a playmaker, right? He can get his, but he wants to be a playmaker and he wants the ball in his hands a lot, right? And so that essentially neutralizes Lonzo's greatest attribute on the offensive end. Like he needs to have the ball and kind of set things up, set the table. Otherwise, you're not getting much value out of him as a spot-up shooter, right? And so that's the problem with Lonzo and Ingram's fit, and not to mention Bledsoe in the mix, right? It's not working. And then defensively, that's where I think they've been very disappointing. And Lonzo is one of their better defenders. They would be giving that up. But what I'm seeing with New Orleans is there's just not enough fight. Oubre, I think, would bring a certain energy and swagger Not to mention, he was a transplant down there as a teenager. I won't even say transplant. That's where he's from. He moved to Houston during Katrina, so that would be somewhat of a homecoming. But I think New Orleans, they could use a bigger wing defender, a guy that plays off ball offensively. We'll see about his shooting, right? But then Oubre just brings a juice, a swagger, and an energy that could really be used by this Pelicans team, because I think that in part is why they've been so disappointing. They kind of roll over, like they don't play hard enough, and that's killing Stan Van Gundy, right? Now, if you run the numbers, Oubre makes about $3 million more than Lonzo, and so another player would have to be included in this. Whether that's a Josh Hart, I'm sure they don't want to give him up. He's one of the guys that 3-and-D prototype. I won't say prototype, archetype. Now, the other name that was thrown around in the rumor is J.J. Redick, who is 37 years old, right? And shooting never leaves you. That's true. But your body can break down, and especially when you consider the way J.J. Redick gets his shots off, right? That signature, like sprinting off the screens and shooting, it's not the same anymore at his age. And, I think that he has a large contract. To acquire Redick, I think if Warrior fans are thinking about that would take a whole lot of wheeling, and it just doesn't make sense, right? Because the second that Clay went down, I think the title aspirations for this year went down with it, right? I think the Warriors want to make the playoffs. That's clear, right? But you don't go and try and get J.J. Redick unless you're trying to win it all, not to mention the luxury tax, like ramifications of trying to get him. So I don't think Redick is part of the deal. Are they willing to part with Josh Hart, Nickeil Alexander? I doubt Jackson Hayes, right? They've got a lot of equity kind of in these lottery pick players that I don't think they could become part of the deal unless, of course, Golden State was sending someone back like a Pascal or something like that. So somehow, if they get creative and the deal becomes essentially Lonzo for Oubre, I got to say I'm with it. The other aspect of the deal is both of them are on one-year deals. So Oubre's in his final year, Lonzo's in his final year. It's been much publicized that New Orleans didn't, opt in and extend him, right? And so both teams are kind of getting a rental. There's no long-term commitment. And I think that much like with the Wiggins D'Lo trade a year ago, the system fit makes the value greater for the Warriors. In a vacuum, you may like Oubre better than Lonzo, but Lonzo on the Warriors is worth more than Oubre on the Warriors, in my eyes. And so that's why I would actually end up pulling the trigger on the deal. But again, right now, it's just rumors. So we'll see, man. We'll see. 20 games here is when they start to pick up. Teams have kind of they're trying to recalibrate now after these 15, 20 games of what do we need? What are our weak spots? What can we do? So we're going to start to hear these rumors. Kevon Looney entered the starting lineup last night for James Wiseman against the Wolves. Very timely move for Steve Kerr, right? Great opponent. But if you want to know what I think about that move and what it means moving forward, check out my Patreon, full breakdown of every Warriors game. And as always, hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.